Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Benu Community Podcast, where we explore bold ideas shaping the future of learning, work, and community. I'm your host, Ben, and today I'm joined by someone who truly embodies the spirit of lifelong learning and practical innovation in the world of learning and development. A few days ago, I talked with Toby Newman. He's a seasoned learning and development consultant with over 20 years of experience, having led impactful learning initiatives at organizations like C.H. Robinson, Peer Technologies, and FedEx Eindhoven. He's passionate about helping people grow, whether it's through leadership development, well-being programs, or by challenging the limits of traditional learning systems. The fact is, in our last conversation, Toby shared brilliant insights on why we need to stop expecting learners to come to us and start meeting them where they are. Today, we'll go deeper into that mindset and explore how the future of learning can feel more human, contextual, and actually useful. Hi, Kobe. I'm so happy to have you today. Maybe you want to introduce yourself in more details and then we can dive into our conversation.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me, Ben. Toby Newman. Been like I said, been in L&D for 20 odd years or so, probably a bit longer now. And yeah, the companies I've worked for and stuff that I've done myself, I've not become disillusioned. Maybe that's a bit too harsh a word, but it's frustrating. I think is probably the best way to putting it. That that we're still, as a general, I think in general in L&D, we're still in this kind of traditional, kind of maybe 10, 15 years ago, where you put stuff in an LMS and people go and click on it and watch it, and then there's this expectation that they come out the other end in some amazing learned fashion, and it's just not true. And I think we probably got away with it for a good few years because that was just the way it happened. And businesses didn't really understand that side of things, so they would just go, okay, here's here's a budget, go spend it. But I think now, with especially with AI coming in, and businesses in general just becoming a lot more savvier when it comes to budgets and seeing where money goes, and just wanting a better return on their money. I think there is an added pressure for L&D to be a lot more effective than it can. And I think the other frustrating thing for me is that we've got this amazing technology on our doorstep, which could revolutionize how we do learning. It is perfect for me. It is perfect for L&D, but we're just not using it in the best way. So we've got this massive opportunity in front of us, with AI, and I think that we need to take a very hard look at ourselves. And I mean, I'm not saying that we're not using it. I know there's a lot of very clever people within L&D in general that are investigating it and using it, but I would say as a whole, we're just not there. And the trouble is that if we're not there in terms of using it, then how the hell are we going to expect employees and people in general to use it? I mean, we are not to say the conduits, but we are one of the first lines of attack or defense, depending which way you think of it, in terms of educating employees and people in general. And so if we are not that way inclined or not pushing for it, then it's just not going to happen. So we're at a crossroads, I'd say.
The point is, in terms of talking about, for example, AI and integrating these kind of tools or opportunities in whatever we are doing as L&D experts or professionals or whatever like that, sometimes people scare of it, because it seems,
Absolutely.
yeah. But my point is, I just wanted to mention what I understand from your point of view is your approach is really human centric.
Yeah.
And it's not about, okay, we need to use these kind of technologies or the things like that. Previous time when we talked, I found that you are more focusing on how we can utilize these kind of opportunities, but not for just pushing employees to do something. You exactly mentioned, for example, previous time that there is a difference between, for example, LMS, I mean traditional LMS platforms, and more agile formats. And the point is, exactly you mentioned that learners shouldn't be asked to go somewhere to learn. And what does learning in the flow of work really? I mean, this is exactly what I mean. Learning in the flow of work happens, and you mentioned that okay, we need to align ourselves in the way of learning and personalize it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, in terms of the first point, I think people are scared. And people are just naturally worried if they don't know. So I think for that piece, again, that is where L&D should be at the forefront because we are the ones traditionally that have taken complicated, complex ideas from the business, translated them into something that's the general population can understand. So we should be doing that for AI and as well. So I feel it's our responsibility to demystify and make sense of that so that people can start to use it. I mean, and to your second point, in terms of bringing people to or bringing learning to their place of work. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you go back, well, not even, unfortunately, not even if you go back, but we are still in a state where the vast majority of companies are learning companies are in the LMS or LXP environment. Now, I mean, I've been going to learning technologies in London for, God, I think probably about 10 years or so now. And the same old stuff is there. Yes, there is a lot more, kind of interesting stuff going on, but there's still, traditional LMSs. There's still platforms saying, "Look at this great platform that we've got." And it's yeah, like I said before, it's a bit depressing, really, that in the last 10 years or so that we haven't moved on from this. So I think you can't, and I appreciate you can't just go from traditional LMS where you've got thousands of L&D people trained in that environment, instructional designers and programmers and all that kind of stuff. That's what they know. So you can't just say, we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go right over the other side and do AI and chatbots and all that kind of stuff. That is too much of a gap. So the kind of the best middle ground is using technology, using AI and stuff, but also using platforms that people use generally. Like we've talked about before about kind of Slack and Teams and Discord and even things like TikTok and all these kind of platforms that we know employees use on a regular basis, but we're just not engaging them where they are. Now, and then I know we discussed this before as well, is that the challenge is that you can't just take content that was made for an LMS and dump it in a Slack or Teams or whatever, because people will go, well, what was the point? You all right, it's one less click, but I've got less analytics and it's less familiar and all that kind of stuff. So the challenge that we have is to start thinking differently about the content itself. And rather than just being, I don't know, a half an hour video or a 10-minute video, it needs to be much more agile in its formatting. So it needs to be being, like, 2-3 minute videos, not a half an hour video squashed into 1 minute, but think of it as a series. One of the things that I'm working on at the moment is the idea that we need to get back to this idea of lifelong learning. Like my acronym is the never ending learner. And we've we missed that. In the book I'm writing at the moment, I talk about the idea that before the Industrial Revolution, there was people that were well, generations of people that would learn over decades. And then, the Industrial Revolution comes along and just wipes all that away. And now we're at the moment where we're still living off that environment where we don't own the knowledge anymore. We're told what to learn. We're told when to learn it, how to learn it, all that kind of stuff. And for me, in the book I'm writing, the responsibility lies on L&D to say, we need to get back to beliefs. We need to get back to what do we believe L&D should be or learning should be, and how should we go about that? And so you can incorporate things like nudge learning and kind of micro learning and all these different things, but they should incorporate an experience. It's no longer acceptable for me. And again, that may be a bit harsher word, but I don't feel it's acceptable that we make a one-off training. Go, there you go. That's my hands off. Done. It needs to be something that a person can learn and improve and engage and practice and try and keep on going over months potentially in order to get that skill if we're serious about people learn that skill. And then AI is no different.
Yeah, and what I see, based on what you mentioned, it's not something kind of imagination. I mean, we already have the opportunity to do something the same by even the current technologies, let alone, I mean, the future and the things are coming.
It's not a future.
For me, still there's a gap between what we expect, what we do, what we, I don't know, value in terms of L&D, and what are the possibilities. And it seems we still, I mean, most of the people, companies, I mean, L&D experts, still seems they are more focusing on their previous experiences on past, and they are not thinking, okay, how I can personalize and do as kind of, I mean, agile person towards changing my mindset, bringing some new opportunities on the table and the things like that. And this is my question. Because you previous time also discussed about the future of personalized learning through AI and chatbots. And again, you mentioned this. How close are we to this becoming mainstream? Because it seems for you in the future, this is the mainstream, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's two answers to that. The first one is the technical piece. And, from seeing what's out there and talking to people and stuff, that technology piece is already there. We can already create individual coaches and chatbots. They're not perfect yet, but
Well,
it's time for them to improve and learn and stuff. But the technology is already there. So that side of things is done. Now the trouble is that I was talking with one of my friends, very clever man, about change. And one of the things he said is that people don't change unless there is a reason to do that change. Now, the bigger that reason, the bigger risk or threat to them, the more likely they are and the quicker they are to change. Now, at this moment in time, you've got, people working in traditional roles. They know, they're very familiar. Anybody familiar with change management knows how difficult it is for people to change out of something that they see works. They feel it works, even though most of it doesn't really work. That nobody's pushing them to change. So their business is not saying you need to stop doing this and move over to AI or whatever. And it's people like myself and the other people that are saying AI is here, we should be using it. And I've said this multiple times that AI will not replace you, but somebody using AI will 100% replace you. Now, that may scare people, that but good, but a lot of people will go, yeah, whatever. But like, for example, let's say I'm going for a job interview. And it's between me and another person. Let's just assume that we both got the same experience, the same backgrounds, and all that kind of stuff. I've used AI to improve my CV, to improve my covering letter, to ask to prepare me for the interviews to make sure that it scanned all the websites and stuff. So it's given me all the values of the company, and it said, you should ask about this, you should ask about this. Here's a reply to that question. Here's a possible reply to that question. So I've got like a cheat sheet with me. Very similar, like going into an exam with a cheat sheet. Not saying you should do that, but it's a similar kind of thing. And then you got the other person that just goes on off their wits. I would say 9 times out of 10, I'm going to get that job. Not because I'm better, but because I'm just much more prepared, much more relaxed and understand what's coming and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I mean by AI will not replace your job, but somebody using AI will replace you. Now, the problem is, the challenge is that is not a bigger enough threat for people to change. Like you said before, people are scared, people are worried, people are confused, because the trouble is at the moment, AI is still talked about in techie terms. It's still talked about regarding large language models and agents and assistants. And, now you've got these terms like RAG and all these different things, because it's still in that domain of the tech world. And so that's why most people like fear it. But what I'm trying to do is to lessen that barrier, give people easier access to chatbots and to AI, and just dumb it down, really. Because I mean, I'm not that clever. I may potentially seem it, but I'm not that clever. But I'm curious, and I kind of play around when things go, oh, okay, that's that. And then I just like to share that and think, oh, okay, well, I did it like this, and maybe you could try it like this. So I think we can do it, that there's just not enough risk out there, or threat, should I say, for people to jump into it. And I fear for L&D that we'll get missed, because it's happening at the moment is tech companies, learning tech companies are jumping the L&D people and going straight to the business. So, for example, let's say a tech company creates a chatbot or an AI agent and says, I can, with this agent, deliver all your employees their personal development plans and give them like a coach, and then everybody gets their own coach. Then the company, the CEO, the bosses and stuff go, oh, okay, so I've got this company that's going to spend me, let's say, 50 grand to do that. Or I've got this L&D team, which is a load of human beings, that's costing me 100,000 plus the platforms and all the other things. And they can't deliver what these guys can deliver. So I'm just going to go over here. And so what you'll find over time is that more and more companies will just skip the whole L&D thing, because it takes time and all that kind of stuff, and go straight to the tech solution. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing, because there are benefits to still having an L&D team and L&D, that human touch, and that you can chat to people and stuff. But if the L&D teams are not careful, they are just going to get completely missed out. I'm already seeing this in companies where the tech division is leading the learning and development area. It's no longer L&D within HR. It's L&D within tech, within the tech division. So you're already starting to see this shift of companies moving towards that way. And like I said, if we're not careful, that they'll just start thinking, well, why am I paying for all these people? I don't need all this team. I've got now. Yes, an AI won't replace, your learning for your whole company. You still need people, but you need tech people. You need somebody to develop and create the AI. And again, because it's AI, they can tell you, you can ask it, what is the best learning plans? What is, ADDIE and all this kind of stuff. So you can program it to do it. You don't need a human being that's had 20 years of experience in training it. So for me, that risk is there, because, and we're not talking decades, we're talking years here. I mean, AI, ChatGPT started in 2023. And you just in the last 2 years, you can the explosion of AI is incredible. And it's almost every month there's a new. I mean, you've seen just recently. I've seen like was it the Google Notepad? I think Notepad, the one where it can turn documents into podcasts. It's amazing. Then you've got. I just saw. I think it's 11 company, 11 AI or whatever they're called. They now doing basically real life chat to speech in perfect. So you just cannot tell it's an AI. And so every month you're seeing, and there's this, and now you've got China coming in with its cheaper LMMs. So it's a race to the top or a race to the bottom, depending on who you talk to. And we're talking years that these kind of things will change, rather than in the past it was multiple years or decades that things would change.
Fabulous. I think I mean, the point that the main issue or the challenge or the problem very well. Now I want to maybe ask a question, but in four different layers. And I think in terms of maybe kind of stakeholder management, something like that, we can consider these four ones. I'm sharing the whole picture, and then I think maybe you want to share something about all of them, or maybe just focus on one of them, depends on you. It seems in the way you, I mean, explained the challenge and the problem and the future and all of those things we are struggling for, I mean, learning and development area, we need to consider individuals. We need to consider L&D professionals as kind of the main, or the ownership of, I mean, these kind of stuff within the companies. The business owners and companies, startups, I don't know, SMEs, big enterprises, these are another section of, I mean, stakeholders. And finally, maybe policymakers and government. These four categories could be important for considering when we are talking about this kind of paradigm shift you mentioned. For me, it seems you most focused on L&D professionals and the
Well,
way.
being individuals, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it seems also the role of governments and policymakers plus business owners could be really important because, they need to allocate their resources towards that vision you mentioned.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know what's your reflections on how we can, in a way, engage those players in this kind of paradigm shift.
So, I mean, let's take the government as an example. So, as you know, they've just enacted the EU AI Act in Europe, at least. It's the first of its kinds, and talks about the four levels of risk, and kind of lays out the foundation. Now, if I kind of break that down into something that's more realistic, and this is an interesting thing that I've had discussions with people, is that most people think that AI Act is only for the tech people that are developing AI. It is not. There is clauses in that AI Act that say that every single person that works in Europe that has access to AI in their company needs to be AI literate. And then by like within 3 or 4 months or so, then they start leaving fines and all that kind of stuff. So if I'm in a company and I'm using, let's say, I don't know, a Libra chat, or I'm using a tool that has got AI embedded in it. Like in my last companies, we were doing logistics, and they were using AI to find the best routes and find the best customers and all that kind of stuff. So because we were using that technology, I had to get AI literate as part of that law. And the number of maybe arguments, I don't know, but the number of people that I've spoken to in L&D that have said, no, 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 it's only for tech. And I'm like, it really isn't. It really, really isn't. There is a dedicated section in there to say anybody that is using AI, not creating it, but using it, needs to be AI literate, for example. So when I was in my last company, what they wanted to do was create the tech again, going back to the previous point, the tech team created this training that I helped build, and they wanted it just to be a technical layout. Here are the risks, blah 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 blah. And I went, no, we're not doing that. We're still doing that bit, but we are using this opportunity to create a starting point to get anybody literate. So we did like the real basic stuff. We did a glossary of AI terms and what it means in reality. Like, what is the difference between a large language model and machine learning? Most people confuse the two. What is the difference between an AI agent and an AI assistant? Again, a lot of people confuse the two. So, and I use that example to be able to create, examples of prompts and what is prompt engineering and how do you make a prompt and how do you just start using it and all that kind of stuff. So you've got the government dictating to say in a good way, this is how you should be using AI. But then, and like you said, it's the companies are should take that as an opportunity to say, we now need to educate all our people, not just focus on our tech people, even though they are important because they're the ones building the tech and then it needs to be built in the right way. But the people using it also need to understand what is AI and all that kind of stuff. So the government has a responsibility again within the EU. I think they're already doing it, of saying what is acceptable and what is not. And then companies, whether they're big companies or small companies, need to adopt that AI policy, but also need to take the responsibility to say, we you need both. So you need people like myself in L&D to say, hey, we need to do this, we need to educate our people. But you also need the leaders of the companies to say, hey, we need to educate our people on this because this is the way forward. I mean, I've spoken to a few different like CFOs and stuff, and they've seen that if we use AI in the right way, we can double or triple how much we're making. I mean, I had a very interesting conversation with my old chief IT officer, and he said that, again, similar to what I said before about AI won't replace you, replace people using AI will. So what he was saying is that most companies won't reduce their staff, their total numbers. They're not looking for AI to reduce their numbers, but what they're saying these top levels is saying, well, if we've got 5,000 people, and if we can reduce their workload by 20%, you've got 5,000 people. Think how much more they could do or what money they could make with an extra 20% of work that is now available for them. I mean, the number one issue I've had for years and years is time management. People go, oh, leaders, I don't have time. I don't have time. And I've worked with a couple of leaders to show them very simple things that an AI can do. To give you one silly example, that I was speaking with one guy that said that he used to get, because in logistics, you get emails going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth from customers to depots to delivery and stuff. And there's these massive long chains. And the leaders have usually got to look through them all and figure out, okay, yes, no, whatever. And so I said to this guy, you can just take the whole chain, dump that into a ChatGPT and go, give me the actions. And boom. Say, and he was saying to me, this saved me, just this one thing saved me 10 minutes every day. That's not much, but 10 minutes is better than nothing. And then if you multiply that over and over and over and over again, you are looking at thousands of hours worth of savings. So we need to be able to educate our people to use it, but companies needs to also be pushing to say we should be using this clever and sharing ideas and all that, and take it not out of the hands of the detecting, but make it much more accessible, so that we can all benefit from it.
You already, in a way, answered my question, but I just want to ask you, what are some more practical steps companies, especially SMEs, because, at least for me, my main focus area and our main focus area is more small and medium-sized enterprises for now in the Netherlands. What are some more practical steps companies can take today? I mean today exactly, to
Yeah.
build a smarter, lighter learning systems without relying on those bulky LMS platforms you already mentioned,
Yeah.
and following your way of thinking.
So I think, obviously you talk a lot about AI, but I mean, there are still the risks. And so you can't just say for a big company or any company, just say to your employees, go use ChatGPT because, you've got the security stuff and you need to set up certain things. So I think from a company's perspective, and for me, this is irrespective of the size of the company. And most companies are probably already doing this already, but is to investigate how can you safely use large language models and AI tech without the risk of doing it? Now, if you've got the resources and stuff, you can, like in my old company, they brought in Libra chats, and it's basically an LMM, but it's secure and an enterprise one. And so, you can put in confidential information and it alleviates the worry of employees. So I think from a company's perspective, it's not saying they need to know this, but they need to, they've probably got people in their company already that know about this stuff. And just think, how do we make sure that our whole team, all our members of our company, know the basics about AI, know how to use it, and just basic literacy for AI. And I think what they can do, as well as, reaching out to the tech team, is they can engage in their learning and development teams to say, can you work with these tech teams and roll out over the next 6 months some programs that will demystify AI? And yes, there is already stuff out there that you can, drag and drop kind of thing. But engage in your teams, especially like learning and development, whose expertise is taking complex matters and making them realistic for the people. So for me, that's the two biggest things is to make sure that it's safe and secure, and share is the easiest. Like, what are you doing in your company? How are you using AI? Tell your teams how if you're using this prompt or you're using that prompt, or how are you using it, and get them excited about AI and not scared of it. And I mean, from the other's perspective, from the individual, there's a couple of things I always say in order to get started. First thing is, and for me, this is a simple swap, but do not use Google, use ChatGPT. Very simple.
As an AI search engine.
Yeah. I've got a ChatGPT account, as you can probably imagine, and now I've actually integrated it into Google. So if I go into Google and do search, it will automatically start giving me a ChatGPT reply. But I guarantee the number of people that they would just think traditionally they would go into Google and say, "What is the top 5 things to do on the weekend? What is the top 5? I know. Give me a recipe for this." Guarantee you put it into ChatGPT, I 100% guarantee it'd be a better response. It will give you much more details. It will give you much more specific information. I've used it for everything from recipes to planning. Just came back from Euro Disney, and it, planned my whole 2 days because I, said, "Oh, I want to do this and I want to make sure I do this, and I've got a kid," and then boom, 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 boom. It's very specific for me. So for me, the biggest thing is use ChatGPT or whichever AI you're using instead of putting it into Google. You'll get a better result. I think that's probably for people that are using it, they already know. But I think that's the best advice I would say is just start using it. And your I hope and feel that your natural curiosity starts to kick in and go, "Oh, okay. I'm now having a conversation with something," and it feels weird to start off with because it's giving you it feels like a human, but it's not a human. It feels like you're talking to some call center, but you're not. And it's that getting over that hump of I can't remember, it's that weird curve of like, I think it's I can't remember what the curve was, like the anomaly, like, it's like works off well and then goes into uncanny valley. That's the one. And goes down into that and then comes back out the other side kind of thing. So, for me, it's that kind of same hump, is that it's great, and then you're like, "Oh, damn, okay, this is weird, this is weird, this is too weird," and then you're like, "Okay, this is kind of normal," and yeah.
Meaning, you mean instead of just talking, thinking, we need to just engage as a yeah, learning by doing, learning by engaging with
Yeah.
the environment, not just, for example, okay, just observing or I don't know, reading about them or the things like
Yeah.
that, right?
Like, for everybody that I've helped them, kinda get over that hump, most of them, if not all of them, have said, like, "Yeah, it's like crack cocaine now. I can't stop, like, chatting to it and going, 'Oh, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this?'" Kinda thing. So, yeah, it it can get quite addictive, but you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. I have two last questions. First of all, it's a little bit more personal, maybe. What excites you most right now about the future of workplace, learning, and development?
I think that the probably the simplest one is personalized, assistance. That I see a future very, very close. I'd see this in within probably even a year maybe, that everybody in a company will have their own personal assistant that knows them, knows how they work, knows their job, knows their responsibilities, knows their racy and all that kind of stuff, and will help them on every step. So in terms of learning and development, it would not only give them a personal development plan, but it will know through conversations with it that it will know if you prefer to work on your weaknesses or your strengths. It would know already the 70-20-10 methodology. So it will start to like feed you to say, "Hey, I saw this 2-minute clip. Have a go at this." And then it will know nudge learning. So it will then come back a week later and say, "Hey, Toby, I sent you that test on Excel last week. How did you think about it?" And it will keep on going and keep on going, and it will for me, that is like we said at the start, it's already here. It's just they haven't taken that one step. We're still in that environment where
That's right.
an AI agent, you have to go to the AI agent. You have to go to a platform and like ChatGPT and do it. I think very soon you'll get to a point where the AI will be naturally, like on your computer, on your phone. It'll be like a Siri or like Alexa.
Yeah, and even maybe more, I told you already that I studied philosophy, I mean, 20 something years ago. There is a philosopher, David Chalmers, and he already developed or promoted kind of idea, which was extended mind.
Hmm.
I think, yeah, we can consider this opportunity as kind of maybe make it real. I mean, AI tools, same as the one you mentioned, that kind of personalized AI chatbot. It's not a real chatbot outside. It's kind of my way of thinking, doing, acting, communicating. This is kind of extended mind opportunity. It helps place
It is an opportunity. It's not a threat. It's not making you dumber. It's making you cleverer. Like, I mean, I use it a lot, and I think of it as an extended brain, like you said, that it's taking my ideas and just turning it up to 11, for those that like Spinal Tap, that it knows what I think, and I'm not just automatically going, "Okay, yeah, whatever you say, go." Okay, I'm still editing it, and I'm still looking at it, and I'm still tweaking it, and going, "Well, no, don't like that. Oh, no, don't like that. Oh, and that's interesting, but what about this?" So it's still my brain. It's just, yeah, just a little,
Yeah, exactly. And as you mentioned, we are also trying in our companies apply this opportunity. Just for example, 2 weeks ago on Sunday morning, my co-founder and I decided to rebrand something at Elevate. And usually for this kind of, I mean, changing the narrative as well as changing the logo and maybe the tagline and changing the website, everything, it takes time, at least, I mean, maybe few months. We less than 20 hours made it. I mean, however, it could be not very perfect, but in just, I mean, in less than 20 hours,
and
one day.
it's not something you could have done that yourself
No,
at all.
we utilized all those kind of AI opportunities for example, design, for as you mentioned, for example, because exactly it seems it's this opportunity helps us to do more with less.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, the very I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there was one about the future work. The podcast called Freakonomics. It's one of my favorite ones. And one of the things that I remember coming from that was that there was a fear in the like 50s and 60s that housewives would become very bored because of all this technology, like dishwashers and vacuum cleaners and all this kind of stuff. But what they actually found was that the housewives were becoming busier. They were doing more because they found, all these different ways to improve their lives. But it meant that they could, rather than just doing 1 or 2 tasks a day, they could do 3 or 4 tasks a day. So rather than sitting around and doing nothing, they actually were busier. So, this whole idea that AI makes us stupid is, I think, for me, is actually coming from people that just don't understand AI, and maybe even a little jealous of it. So yeah.
so my last question: what's one belief or assumption about learning that you've changed your mind about in the past 5 years?
Mm. Uh, Change. I think the two that spring to mind. I think the one that I'd already mentioned, this idea of this kind of continuous learning, that it wasn't just something that sprang in my mind when I was young, kind of thing. I've just realized over the last probably 5 years or so is that making content or delivering a training in a workshop doesn't quite cut it. So for me, that's one change. I think probably the other change is learning styles that I was a kind of a big believer of. Everybody's got a learning style, whether they're hands, heads, nose. It's they touch, they feel, they smell, they all that kind of stuff. And so you had to make a training that was physical, but also something they could read and something they could see, and that got kind of poo pooed in scientific circles. I must admit, I still believe that we have preferences. So, some people prefer to just read more, some people prefer to watch more. But that for me is probably the one thing that I've changed in saying, like, it's not a hard left and right, it's more of a gray middle area.
Thank you, Toby. Thank you so much for
My
sharing
pleasure.
your
It's been fun.
yeah, sharing your wisdom, your honesty, and your human first approach to learning. It's clear that, in my opinion, that your work isn't just about training; it's about transformation.
Yeah.
Yeah. To our listeners, if you are curious about how to rethink learning in your organization, or if you simply want to be inspired by someone who is constantly evolving and helping others do the same, make sure to follow Toby on LinkedIn. Of course, we are sharing more details, including your LinkedIn, to be in the description of this episode. And we can mention you and your accounts on different social media channels. People can approach you if they want. I think, yeah, it could be possible at least to follow you on LinkedIn. And if you enjoy this episode, to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep building the future you want to be part of. Thank you, Toby. I enjoyed a lot.
My pleasure.